Hey everybody, Darryl Dioso from Resource Management Solutions Group and HR for You. And I'd like to welcome you to Communications Corner, where we provide tips and advice for HR professionals and candidates also seeking a new career. And today I have Barbara Katz, a communications coach from Socially Savvy Group. Hi, Barbara.
Hello, Darryl. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining. And we've got a few questions, and these ones are pertaining to candidates. And I was hoping that we could discuss them, get your take as a communications coach. And I want to give my feedback and input from a recruiter's perspective as well as a hiring manager's perspective,
Yeah,
and then
so valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And right off the bat, one of the biggest questions and one that comes up often is, how do you make a good first impression, when you are in the interview? What advice would you give to candidates, at
Well,
that note?
first of all, the first thing you need to do to make a great first impression, it actually starts in your mind. You have to be in the right mind frame. So a lot of candidates, this is a really big interview. This is a really big, that you really want to get this job. So a lot of the times, people come to interviews where they are thinking, I really hope they'll hire me. And that's a completely different energy of, I'm the right candidate for you. And I want to see if this is a win-win for both of us. So right off the bat, your body language changes. So body language is what's happening in your mind, what's happening in your emotions come out in your body language. And 82% of communications is actually body language. So you want to get yourself into a really strong mindset of, I'm the right candidate for this. I'm going to go in, we're going to have a conversation to find out if we're a good fit.
Oh, I love that. Love that. From my end, I'm always looking for, as a recruiter and hiring manager, I'm looking for confidence, right? I'm looking for professionalism, both in terms of your attire, like, excuse me, what I'm wearing, I'm working from home, but your mannerisms, right? There's none of this, twirling your hair and kind of fiddling around. I also look that you're prepared, you know about the company, you know about the role. And the one I want to stress for all candidates that we're looking for, and it's so important, is likability and personality. I want to have that vibe that, yeah, I like you, I can get along with you, because that means then that the hiring manager, that they'll get along with you, that the hiring team, that they want to work with you, collaborate with you. So don't be a robot, right? Don't be so, rigid and stoic, show some personality,
Yeah.
show, a smile, engage, etc. So that's what I'd be looking for.
Smile, people do not give the smile enough credit. Smile goes so far, and it's about smiling from your eyes as well. Like
Oh, I
really,
love that.
having eye contact, being engaged and listening. You have to listen to what the interviewer is asking as opposed to just being in your head. Because when you're in your head, people can tell you're not engaged because the interviewer is thinking, how is this? First of all, you've got the skill sets, else they wouldn't be asking you in for an interview, right?
Right.
So you have to say, okay, I've got the skill set. So it's a matter of them seeing if I'm going to be a good fit with their company and their philosophies and their culture. So you want to try to make a connection with the interviewer and really listening to what they say and following along and nodding when it's appropriate, watching what's happening with your hands, as you said. Sometimes that's really distracting, and that's a telltale sign of nervousness, right? The last thing I want to say is breathe. Breathe. A lot of the times when we get really nervous, we stop breathing, we breathe from the top of our chest right here, and our voice gets really tight, and then we talk really, really, really fast, and we sound like Mickey Mouse, right? And it's just a natural thing. So before you go into your interview, take a deep breath, a couple of them all the way down to your belly button, because what that does is it grounds you, it centers you, and it forces you to be less in your head because you're being more mindful of the way you're breathing, but it also changes your physiology. So you're less tight in your throat and you don't sound like this.
I love that. That is some great advice, on overcoming the nerves that come, when you're in an interview. On my end, I want to always stress this and share with this, kind of almost like an inside perspective. Understand that us as recruiters and hiring managers, we're not there to judge you as an interviewer, right? We're not there to judge your interviewing skills. We know that you're not a professional interviewer. We're there to judge your skills and abilities and experience for the role, right? So when you go in there, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Think of
Yes.
yourself like, I'm there to make a contact. I'm there to make a networking connection.
Yeah.
And understand, and I mean this with all sincerity, and I can tell you 99% of all interviewers are in this same mind frame. We want you to succeed. We want you to do well, right? We're there to prop you up and be your cheerleader. We're not there to knock you down, right? And realize this too, because we're all humans. Guess what? I'm nervous too. I am nervous too, right? I'm
Yeah.
meeting you. You
Yeah.
might be an expert in your field and what have you, and we're engaging in some very technical discussions. I'm pretty nervous too, right? So it's okay. It's okay to have those nerves and channel them, and hone it and focus it into a positive release, if you will.
Such great advice.
Yeah. This one's a tough one, and it actually comes up every now and then, especially in a cosmopolitan city like Toronto. English is my second language. So how do I get my point across and answer these interview questions effectively? What advice would you give on that note?
Well, firstly, it depends, the type of role you're going for. You can always get a tutor, right? You can
Yes.
always get a tutor. There are, as I'm sure that you can speak to this, there are always specific questions that the interviewer is going to ask. So be prepared with those, practice those so you feel I've got that really solidly. And as you had said earlier, we're all human. And it's much more endearing and much more connecting with another human being to say, I'm a bit nervous and English isn't my second language. So I'm just going to speak a little slower. And it may take me a half a second more to just gather my thoughts before I speak. And people are very forgiving when you actually say that up front, as opposed to, being flustered and then, it becomes really awkward.
Right. Oh, that's excellent advice. I'd add to that, for anyone who is new to the country, and I've shared this actually, is like how you mentioned, practice whenever you get a chance. So always make sure that when you're with your friends, and this is common, right? I'm a son of immigrants, right? When you're in your community, you always gravitate and tend to want to speak in your own native tongue. Don't, right? Speak in English to each other, right?
Yeah.
As well as read in English, so pick up
Yeah.
the newspaper, read, or go online and read, as well as one I really like is watch the news, because you'll see the words, you'll see the banners, etc., and you'll get the information in English, right? And just to add to what you were saying, about, um, recognizing that you are English as a second language and your interviewer will be very forgiving of that. Pause, when you do find that you're maybe escaping, can't find the words and so forth, or maybe getting carried away, pause, kind of regroup, and then you can answer, clearly and concisely.
Having a break of non-talking is more professional than lots of so yeah, stop and gather your thoughts and stop talking and then proceed.
Ah, that's a great segue to this next question. And candidate asked, I ramble on too long in interviews. How do I shorten, or how can I shorten my responses?
Yeah, succinctness is important. Again, practice. There's going to be certain questions you're going to be asked. Other questions are just going to come out of the blue. So you want an answer to be longer than yes or no, right? After you're about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, if it's a really technical answer, you want to wrap it up unless they're asking follow-up questions or they're really engaged. So here's a tip to find out if you've given enough information. Is you want to, body language is not only about your body language, but it's understanding someone else's body language. So whether you're in person or you're on a Zoom call doing an interview, you know, you can gauge the engagement of someone else. So if I start talking, you ask me a question, and like right now I can see we're not in the same room, but we've got eye contact. I can tell by your facial expressions that you are listening to me, you're intent on my answer. You know, you may just come forward a little bit. I know you're even more engaged. If I'm starting to, you know, kind of veer off another direction and I see your body language kind of go backwards, like you are recoiling, you need to be visually aware of what's happening with the other person and then wrap it up.
Oh, that's excellent. I love that. And I love how you have the mindfulness of the body language. What I would offer, and I actually coach candidates on, is to have structure, right? And I always kind of coach them, think of it almost like your interview responses to be like an essay from back when you were in school, right? You should have an opening, a body, a conclusion. And the opening is just a brief introduction as to what you will be speaking about, right? I am presently the project manager at ABC Company. That's it, just a brief opening. Body, though, is the details, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. In this role, I'm responsible for 5 team leads as well as 20 direct reports. And I'm also responsible for, and then go into the details there, right? And then finally, conclusion is list off your accomplishments and the results that you attained in that role, right? So opening, body, conclusion. This limits any sort of rambling, because what we find is candidates are so worried, I got to cover off this, I want to make sure I mention this. If we always are mindful of having a structure, just opening, body, conclusion. And the body, just maybe 3 or 4 buckets of the responsibilities that you can mention, right? Is it scheduling that you're responsible for? Is it staffing that you're responsible for? Sales, a little bit of marketing. Talk about that. And then the accomplishments, maybe 2 or 3 big wins. I'm proud to say that I brought on Honda of Canada last year, and which resulted in a $1 million revenue growth for the territory, something along those lines. That helps tremendously in keeping the responses tight, clear, and concise.
The other thing that I'd like to add to that is the one thing that really connects human beings to each other are stories.
Oh, excellent.
And it also makes you memorable, right? As you say, you don't want to be a robot. You don't want to have your business mask on and, you're robotic, because that's not memorable. So it's great to think through, what are some stories that exemplify a point that I'm trying to make, right? And as I love the idea of the structure, you want to have the same structure in your stories.
Nice.
So you want your story to be maybe a minute, so that you're not rambling on, but it's enough to exemplify a point that you're making. And you want to be memorable. They're interviewing how many other candidates, right? You want to you want to be top of mind and then go, I remember Darryl. He was the one that was telling us. That is really what people remember, are the stories, not necessarily the exact words that you use. It's the feeling that you leave them with, the openness, the genuineness, the authenticness, and the warmth. Really, it's the warmth that you come across with is what is memorable.
Oh, I love that. That's excellent. And I think a lot of times, and even candidates have brought this to me, it's like a concern, I have no stories to share. That's not true. Right? We all have a story to share. Right?
Absolutely.
And if you dig deep, you will find that you have much to share. Many examples, many instances that can make yourself that much more memorable.
And it's good to, again, you want to pre-plan those in saying, okay, if they ask this question, oh, that's a great story. Oh, if they ask that kind of question, oh, that would be a good story. So you've got them in your back pocket.
Yes.
So you're prepared for that.
Yeah, and just to build on that, when you share stories, what I like about it too, and going back to our earlier points about showing your personality and likability and so forth, and your energy, when you're sharing stories, they see your passion. They see like your interest, right? They see like your eyes light up. And I was lead on this project where we had to revamp the entire retail store from beginning to end. And then they just, and you just relate that story. They see that energy, and as an interviewer, you're just sitting there going, wow, Barbara,
I want
this
them
is
on my
great.
team. As opposed to someone who's just yes, no, you know, you don't see their personality, you don't, and you're guessing, would they be a good fit or not? Or, you know, you want to show them who you are, because again, you are interviewing each other to see if it's a good fit for both of you, right?
Right. Oh, that's excellent. Well, you know what? Great tips and advice. I really think, you know, candidates can come away with a lot from this. So just in closing, you know, how can people get in touch with you, and you know, what can you help them with? Can you
Well,
share that, please?
I mean, you and I work together, so if they need any help with any type of body language or, you know, communication skills, they can talk to me, and I'd be happy to help them.
Excellent. And I'll be providing links below, and you know, reach out, and even if you have any other questions, you know, we'll be happy to help. So thanks so much, and you know, that's been it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Darryl. Appreciate it. Look forward to helping your clients.
Thank you so much.